Rams head coach Sean McVay lays out his top priorities for the offseason, and it is all good news for Rams fans.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every day, your team every single day. We, of course, are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Rams, both on your podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts, and, of course, our Locked On Rams YouTube channel as well. My name is Travis Rodgers. I host a Rams pregame show and postgame show on their flagship station here in Los Angeles, 710 ESPN, as well as the Travis and Sliwa show every day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on ESPN 710. So let's get right to it, right? Let's make sure that we know what we're talking about with Sean McVay, that we know that Sean McVay is all the way in and that he is ready to go. No question in my mind that he always was. But let's start right here. He was asked during his media availability for the Combine. Now, just because he and Sean McVay didn't go to the Combine doesn't mean that they aren't talking about the Combine. They are required by league rule to be made available to the media, so they've both been speaking quite a bit. We talked about this on Locked On Rams earlier in the week. Les Snead came on to my show, my Travis and Sliwa show, as I mentioned, and we talked a lot about what he said. I want to talk a little bit about what Sean McVay had to say during his media availability as well, specifically what he was talking about with his top priorities heading into the offseason. I want to read this to you because he mentioned that the top priority for the organization, for him, for the Rams, is to make sure that Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald receive new contracts. And that is nothing but very good news for the Rams. Here's what he said. They're both basically unanimously voted captains. They epitomize what's right about the Rams. And so I think the other things that's special is these guys deserve and will be rewarded accordingly. But I think that they also understand that they want to work in coordination to try to help us be as competitive as we can be. Okay, that's the head coach, Sean McVay. What does that mean? What that means is that he gets it, first and foremost. And as weird as it sounds, that might be in incredibly short supply in other sports organizations and other NFL teams in the world, in your life, whatever it might be. Guys that just kind of get how it works. Guys that just kind of understand what is important and when you have to maximize the things that are available to you. Just very quickly, and not to go too far afield here, do the Lakers get it? I don't know. It doesn't feel like they do. It doesn't feel like they have a plan in place. Do the Dodgers? Yeah, it feels like they do. It feels like they understand that they have a moment and they're trying to seize that moment. Now, their moment's been a decade long, which is pretty extraordinary, but they get it. Sean McVay gets it. And what I mean by that is this. He understands that as long as they have Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald happy and playing at the rate and the level that they've been playing the last several years, gives him an opportunity to continue to do what he's done, which is win a whole bunch of games, go to the playoffs, and compete for Super Bowls. He gets it. Instead of thinking away, well, maybe we can get by without this. Maybe we can get by with something a little bit different. No. He realizes, take care of Aaron Donald. If we take care of Aaron Donald, everything else on the defense gets a little bit easier because he's that extraordinary of a player. If Aaron Donald is happy and he's got a new contract and he's going to play the way he is, and both of these guys, I think, are pretty unique individuals in the sense that they're not going to let their economics, their finances dictate their effort or anything like that. They're extraordinary players, but we're all human beings, right? If you're taken care of, you're going to give a little bit extra. You're going to give a little bit of something on top of just your base rate, to quote Les Snead. So if Aaron Donald is taken care of and he is still performing at the level that we saw him last year and certainly through the postseason, the rest of the defense kind of falls into place, at least to a certain degree. Take care of him. Maybe you don't need quite as much over here or quite as much over there because he covers so many other things. Let's make sure that that's taken care of first, and then we can figure something out. Matthew Stafford is the same thing. I don't like to go back to this because it's over. The Rams won the Super Bowl. The Rams took care of business the way they needed to by having a quarterback that could win games for you in the biggest moments. but they realized that we have a guy that can win games. We used to not. We used to have a guy that we had to try to work around a little bit, that we had to try to hope wouldn't screw it up, that we had to try to hope that we wouldn't fall behind, because if we did, we're in a world of hurt. Now we've got the right guy in the right position. Let's make sure that he's here for a while. Let's make sure that we're solid right there and we can take care of the offense the way we talked about taking care of the defense, that we can spread out some of these other things because we have a difference maker at quarterback. They're very hard to find. They're probably 10 of them in the league, tops, maybe less than 10. Could be 7 or 8. It's certainly not more than 10, 12 tops. So they've got one of these guys and they're taking care of him. And the biggest part of this, and the biggest reason that this is very exciting for Rams fans like myself, like you, if you're listening to this podcast, is if they can redo those guys' deals, and they're going to be for huge money, right? It's the best defensive player in the year in the league, maybe one of the best defensive players of all time, and a quarterback that's proven he can take you and win Super Bowl games based on his own ability. Okay, those are very expensive products to go buy. But if you stretch that money out, if you redo their deals, you can stagger some of the amount of money that you owe these guys and spread it out and create a little bit of maneuverability in the rest of your cap. So, yeah, I'm going to give Matthew Stafford a small fortune. I'm going to give Aaron Donald another small fortune. But if I can spread that fortune out over a number of years, it gives me some flexibility as opposed to having to give them a bunch of it in a shorter window. Now I can spend a little money to maybe keep Von Miller. Maybe I can negotiate a little more effectively with Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe I have a little bit more to go into free agency and shore up the secondary or the linebacker market or some of the other places that these guys have been. This is what's so good about that, is it not only takes care of two guys that are going to set the tone, like Sean McVay said. These are guys that epitomize what the Rams are about. There's no drama with either one of these guys. There's no, you saw Matthew Stafford, right? Matthew Stafford and his wife, they bought a bunch of tickets for people in and around the community. Aaron Donald is about as solid a guy as you're going to find. They get it. They're not only just great football players, but they understand that if they set a tone, if they set the way that these things are supposed to be, then they're going to be in really good shape because everyone else is going to follow their lead. Can you be a guy that's a distraction, a bad guy, a guy that is a me guy, a guy that is the person that's drawing a lot of attention when Aaron Donald isn't? You're not a fraction of the player that Aaron Donald is. Why am I dealing with you? If Aaron Donald's not doing it, I don't have to have you do it. Aaron Donald will clean. It'll never happen because Aaron Donald will take care of himself. Same exact thing on the other side of the ball with Matthew Stafford. These guys are leaders in every sense of the word, and it just allows you to get your leaders in a position to where they're well taken care of and they feel good about it. It allows you to spread that money out over a longer period of time to more people because you have some more financial flexibility. And the best news of all, you've just locked up two of your best players long term. So to hear Sean McVay say that, and sometimes these teams get cagey, right? Sometimes these teams will say, well, we certainly want to work something out. Hopefully we can find something that works out for both parties. Hopefully we can find something that will allow us to do this, that, and the next thing. No, what Sean McVay is saying, our top priority at this point in the offseason is making sure that Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford are well taken care of because they deserve it, because they're team leaders, because they're great in the community, because they're fantastic football players. Look, let's put all that other stuff aside just for a second. They're such good football players. You're going to want to make sure that they're well taken care of. You are a better team with these guys than without these guys by a mile. And it sets the tone and everything else that we talked about. So that's very, very good news for the Rams, that is at the top of their to-do list heading into free agency, heading into the combine, and certainly heading into the draft and beyond and getting ready to defend that Super Bowl championship that happened just a couple of weeks ago. All right. Coming up next, I want to talk about Matthew Stafford and his odds to win MVP and why this, too, is very good news for the Rams. That's coming up. But first, let's talk about BetOnline. Football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both college and pro hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. And BetOnline, it remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, UFC odds, just down to anything else that you might need to know. Head on over to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. In fact, we're going to use some of those BetOnline odds coming up in just a little bit when we talk about Matthew Stafford. Let me say thanks again for making Locked On Rams your first listen every day. Make sure you're following Locked On NFL, Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NFL every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, so let's talk about some of those odds that we're talking about with Matthew Stafford. The NFL odds for next season. BetOnline, thank you for these odds. This is a place you can go to get all of your NFL odds and information. But the number one guy heading into next season, your favorite for NFL MVP, is Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills. Okay, plus 700. Makes sense. Your number two guy, Patrick Mahomes. Sure, why not? He's already won this award, plus 750. Right after that, the defending most valuable player in the league, Aaron Rodgers, plus 800. Noticing a trend here? Okay, and this is where it starts to get a little bit weird. Justin Herbert is plus 1,000. Now, Justin Herbert is a great player. Justin Herbert was not the reason that the Chargers did not make the playoffs last year. Justin Herbert has an amazing amount of talent. Justin Herbert is a whole bunch of very positive things. You know what Justin Herbert has not done? Taken a team to the playoffs. Okay, so that one kind of jumps out at you a little bit. Joe Burrow, 12 plus 1,200. Okay, so, was in the Super Bowl a year ago. He's a young guy. Like I've talked about a million times before, this is somebody that just kind of knows how to win things, right? So if all of a sudden he won an MVP award, I wouldn't be blown away by that. That makes some sense there. Dak Prescott, plus 1,400. Did I miss something? Did I miss something where Dak Prescott won a bunch of games that were super important for the Dallas Cowboys? I know he's been hurt. I know he missed some time with that injury, and I know that Dak Prescott seems to be a pretty good dude. I know that Dak Prescott is a guy that is on the Cowboys, so he's very popular. He gets commercials and everything else that comes along with it. But where exactly was I when Dak Prescott started winning a bunch of games that mattered? When Dak Prescott was the reason that the Cowboys were, hey, you know who you don't want to play? The Cowboys. You know why you don't want to play the Cowboys? Because they have Dak Prescott. Where was I? Was I in a coma? Was I sick? Was I out of the country? I don't remember being any of these things, but apparently it must have happened for him to get there. And I get it. The Cowboys get, it's like the Lakers, right? That even when the Lakers are not very good, they get a bunch of attention and everything else because they're the Cowboys and they're the Lakers. But Dak Prescott, come on, man. I mean, I'm not, he could have a great season. I'm not saying that, but most valuable player to me would seem to indicate that there are some wins on your horizon, some important wins, some playoff wins, maybe even a Super Bowl appearance here or there. Which brings us to the next guy, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford, who is plus 1,600. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He has the seventh best odds, which is not bad. But are we not disrespecting him a little bit? Did we not see exactly what he is capable of when you give him the ability to play with a real team, the ability to play with a real coach, the ability to play with multiple weapons offensively? I mean, Matthew Stafford in Detroit was a guy, what was it, Pat Stafford? Is that the moniker that he was given? Fantasy stats, right? He put up a bunch of numbers, be behind by 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, he'd get you a couple of late ones, pad the stat. Okay, whatever. That was a Lions thing. That's not a Matthew Stafford thing. The Matthew Stafford part of this, that once you gave him a head coach, an offensive-minded head coach, a functioning head coach, a capable head coach, an offensive line that could keep him relatively well protected, a couple of very nice wide receivers and guys like Cooper Kupp, whether it's Robert Woods, Odell Beckham, Van Jefferson, whatever it might be, give him a little weapon in Tyler Higbee, give him a couple of running backs that are, league average at worst. What did he do? I don't know. He just went 1 for 1 in the Super Bowl and took over 3 of those playoff games along the way and won them by himself. Let's put him in 7th. Now, it bothers me, right? It bothers me as a fan of his. It bothers me as a football fan. It bothers me as a Rams fan that he's still being disrespected by that. The good news is it doesn't matter if I'm offended by it. It matters if he's offended by it. And I don't think for 1 second he is. I guarantee you, if you asked him, hey, where do you think you fall in the MVP odds for next season? I don't even think he'd understand the question. We do that already? He is not about that at all. But what I do think he is about is kind of rewriting his personal history to a certain degree. He's not going to say it. He's a very modest guy. He's got that quarterback gear, that kind of that old school quarterback gear. I'm not going to talk about myself. I'll talk about my teammates. I'll talk about the organization. I'll talk about the head coach. I'm going to deflect. I'll take all, when it goes bad, I'll take all the heat and all the money. But I'm not going to be the guy that brings attention to myself. So I don't think he's going to be jumping up and down complaining that he didn't get some MVP love early in the season. I'm perfectly okay with Josh Allen being at the top of the list. Josh Allen is a very, very special player. You look at Patrick Mahomes, enough said. Aaron Rodgers, enough said. Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott ahead of him. Even if you want to put Joe Burrow ahead of him, I'm okay with that. Because Joe Burrow, I don't know if he has the same sort of structural support that a guy like Matthew Stafford has. Jack Taylor did a good job with that team, and he's got guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and they're a good team. Look, they were in the Super Bowl. They're conference champions. But that feels a little more, or maybe I should say a little less repeatable than some of the things that the Rams have along the way. So that Joe Burrow did what he did and got that team, and he's got that thing like the V in most valuable player for him, I think really stands out, right? The value that he brings, the character, the attitude, the winning notion that he brings to just about everything he does, I think is incredibly valuable. So I'm okay with that. But Justin Herbert and Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert hasn't been to the playoffs yet. Okay, and I get it. It's not his fault, but don't you have to at least win enough games to get into the playoffs to be a most valuable player candidate? Dak Prescott got into the playoffs and got clipped by the San Francisco 49ers, who are a good team, but it's not like they ran into Tom Brady at his peak or Aaron Rodgers at his peak. They lost to Jimmy G. I get it. The Rams lost to Jimmy G a bunch of times in a row, but the Rams also won a bunch of other games along the way, other playoff games, other games that were a big deal, winning division over and over again. The count, Dak Prescott? Come on, man. Like I said, this bothers me a lot more than I'm sure it bothers somebody like Matthew Stafford. But I do think, and I think this is good news for the Rams, not just for Matthew Stafford, but for the Rams collectively heading in to their title defense coming up here in a few months. The idea that, hey, look, I think everybody knows the Rams are a good team. Everybody knows Aaron Donald is a special guy. Everybody knows that Cooper Kupp did get an MVP vote, right? But it was more of those, kind of broke their way. And it did. It absolutely did. They got very fortunate along the way, a couple of different ways. But by the way, you have to, if you're going to win a Super Bowl, you're going to have to make some decisions that work out. You're going to have to make some acquisitions and hope that they work out. And everything that we've talked about on Locked On Rams over the last month or two has turned out to be true, right? The moves that they've made. But you've also got to be really, really good. You've got to have a quarterback that's very, very special. Because while the Rams have good players all over, if the quarterback wasn't who he was, if Matthew Stafford didn't play like that, they lose in Tampa. And if he wasn't playing the way that he did, they lose to San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. And if he's not playing the way that he did in the Super Bowl, they lose in the Super Bowl to the Cincinnati Bengals. That's how good he was. That without him, look, if Aaron Rodgers is there, maybe. Tom Brady, sure, why not? One of these other guys that we've seen throughout the league year after year, Peyton Manning, okay, fine. But he had to do it, and he did. And that he's being disrespected like that, and that the team, I think, is being disrespected like that to a certain point, I think is very good news for the Rams. Because, okay, you think that we're just kind of a pretty good team that caught a couple of breaks along the way? Okay. It's one of the things I love about this Ram team so much. There does not seem to be a great deal of complacency or, hey, check out what we did. Celebration? Hell yes. The opportunity to really savor and enjoy what they did? Yep, I saw the guys at the parade with my own two eyes, and they were having a hell of a time, and it felt good. But you know what else they were talking about the very next day? Andrew Whitworth was talking about why is Aaron Donald in the weight room? We just had the parade yesterday. I'm sure Matthew Stafford isn't just sitting around somewhere thinking about, I don't ever have to do anything for the rest of my life. I got that one Super Bowl. Let's just go collect money and stack racks of money in my basement from now until. No. They're ready to go again. And little things like this can make a big difference. I'm very excited to see how he responds and comes out next season, knowing that people are going, okay, it's the classic show me again. He will. He will show you again. I don't know if the Rams will win as many games as they did last year because of some injuries that they're going to have to deal with coming into next season. But by the time you get to the end of the line, I think they're going to be pretty good. Okay, coming up next, Sean McVay makes it clear once and for all that he is fully committed to coaching. Never any doubt. That's coming up. But first, Built Bar, right? It's getting to that time of year where you've kind of punted on some of the things that you were trying to get done in your diet, maybe with your fitness. Hey, at least stay strong with some of the snack choices that you're making, right? Built Bar is the better choice. I get it. We all have those moments where I'm starving. I need something to eat right now. I don't have time to go make something healthy. I just need to get something that's going to get me through the next couple of hours. Built Bar. That's why you got to put them in all those spots, right? Your car, your desk, your backpack, your briefcase, whatever it is that you carry around with you from day to day. Throw a couple of Built Bars in there. So when it's time to make a choice, you can make a good choice because they're low in calories, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. Compare that to some of the other snacks that maybe you might grab. Not even close. Like a candy bar, 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Bad choice. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste too. They make it delicious first, then they figure out how to do all the sciencey other stuff and the healthy stuff. I don't know, but it works, and they're delicious, and they're going to help you stay on track. Go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off your order. Use that promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Okay, so when we're talking about Sean McVay being fully committed to coaching, he was talking about this as well during his media availability the other day. It never occurred to me that this was the time for him to leave. Now, when all of a sudden you hear that Amazon's getting in to the $20 million a year range, 5 years, $100 million, that was the point where he said, wait, hold on a second. This may be something that you at least have to seriously consider, because that's generational wealth, right? That's something that you are going to have forever and ever and ever. You're never going to have to worry about money ever again. Your kids, your grandkids, everything, right? We're good. We're done. We have $100 million that we can build on. Let's go from there. And oh, by the way, at the end of that time, I'm going to be 41 years old. If I want to go coach again, I could do it. That was the only time that made me think, okay, let's see. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking of the same thing. I kept thinking of seeing Sean McVay on the sidelines. I would think about the times that I've interviewed Sean McVay personally. I would think about the times I would see him at training camp coaching his team. I would see the way that he's running around. I would see the way that he's encouraging players, that he's fully engaged, that this was not somebody that ever looked tired. This was not somebody that ever looked like they had had enough, that they wanted to go try something else, that they were kind of over it, that there was everything that they needed to do was a part of this. And here's what he said about coaching. More than anything, you really find a purpose when you're coaching and when you're working with people and people that you love. And I think there was real purpose behind this team. There's a lot of passion and purpose. And I think those things, continue to carry on. That was the part that always made me feel pretty comfortable about his return. Even when $100 million popped up, it was, what about the love? What about the juice? What about the competition? I know that sometimes it feels like platitudes. I know that sometimes it feels like coaches will say things just to say, oh, I love my players and these things. Watch that dude. Watch that dude with his players. Does that seem artificial? When he goes sprinting the length of the football field to meet up with one of his receivers in the end zone, does that seem like somebody who just wants to sit in a television booth once a week? The love, the feelings that he gets juice from relationships. He gets juice from seeing a guy be one thing and then coaching him up into another, or seeing some ability in a guy and trying to draw that ability out and make sure that guy has him succeed. That's what gets that guy going. Sitting in the booth and saying, oh, I really think they should go for it on fourth down, Chuck. What is that? Look, I am a broadcaster. I am somebody that sits behind a microphone and talks every day. It's not the greatest team sport in the world. You're all kind of in for it to a certain degree, just talking about what you're seeing. But at the end of the day, you walk back, you do your own thing. When you're part of a team, when you're an athlete, when you're the head coach of a team or a coach on a team, and you've got your community of people, whether it's a small group of people, maybe it's a group of 10 or 12, or it's a football organization where there's literally hundreds of people that are directly responsible for your decision-making, it's a family, it's community. There is some love in those things. And to walk away from that for just money, when you know that the money will always be there, when you know that you probably will be a good broadcaster at 40, 50, 60, whenever you decide that you're ready for something like that. And you know that the money that you're going to get from the Rams in a renegotiated contract is going to be extraordinary. Maybe not $100 million big. Maybe it will be. But certainly close enough to feel like you don't have to, I have to do it because I have no choice. Like if you make, I don't know, 100,000 and somebody comes to you and says, I'll pay you $2 million, you have to go, right? It's too big. But if somebody says, if you make 100,000, somebody says, I'll pay you 110, and it's a totally different thing. You love what you're doing. Then it's like, well, I don't know. Is that really worth it to leave what I love, to leave what I know, to leave my coworkers, my family, in Sean McVay's case, my players? I don't think so. And to hear him kind of just say, I am fully committed to coaching. I have interest in broadcasting, but not right now. I fully believe. Sometimes that feels a little half-baked. Sometimes that feels like, yeah, maybe he's negotiating a little. Maybe we'll see what it is. I don't get that sense with Sean McVay at all. I think he's going to be here for the Rams for a very long time. And by a very long time, that could be 3 or 4 years, right? It's the NFL. Things turn over. Bill Belichick's and Pete Carroll's and Sean Payton's and Mike Tomlin's and guys that last for a very long time are pretty rare, right? They're very rare, in fact. There's 4 guys over the last 20 years that have been pretty steady. Everything else turns over. Even good teams, they turn over pretty quickly. But it does feel like McVay might be one of those exceptional guys, and that he's going to be around for a long time. is very, very good news. Thanks again for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring you the NFL Draft every single day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It, too, is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'll talk about some of the players at the Combine, some of the guys that the Rams may have their eyes on. That's coming up next week on Locked On Rams. Click that subscribe button. Until then, whose house? It's Locked On Rams' house.